Here's Brian Skelly's real estate investor tips. Go ahead.
All right. So number one is start with your primary residence. If you believe in owning real estate, first thing you got to do is get your own house, gain some home ownership experience. You need to understand how a home works. How does a thermostat work? How do you shovel the driveway? What kind of flooring do you have? What do you do when the furnace doesn't start? So just having some home ownership experience is going to be really valuable when you start managing homes that other people live in. Also, maybe consider getting roommates. Kind of goes in with buying your own primary residence. If you're not quite ready to buy an investment property, if you buy your own primary residence and you get some roommates, it's a great way to get started.
Do you
Agree or disagree?
believe? Well, I'm going to tell you in a second. Do you
Okay.
believe a primary residence is an investment property? You're not saying, it doesn't sound like you're saying that, but what's your belief on that?
Absolutely. So, I mean, one of the
Okay.
reasons I got into real estate in general, when I was in 2025, just out of college, I read a book by David Bach called The Automatic Millionaire. And he said, if you're young and you start investing in real estate, you've got 40 years for this real estate to go up in value. You'll do very well if you start young. And he said, if you're maybe you're older, maybe you're in your 50s, you're getting ready to retire and you didn't save as much money as you should have, and you need to catch up, owning real estate is one of the best ways to get caught up and start building money. So absolutely, it is a great investment. You got to live somewhere, and folks that own homes over 30 years are going to come out ahead financially versus folks that don't. Agree.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, I
Ready
agree.
for that?
Like,
We got
start with your
19 to get
primary.
through here.
You can't look necessarily at your primary. You certainly wouldn't want to classify it as an investment property per taxes. But okay, I like that. I like having the roommate play. If it's your first property, there's a name for that. House hacking. I like that. Number two.
All right. Well, we won't rush through it. If we don't get through the whole list, we
We
can
got
talk
time,
more about
Brian.
it next
Don't
week. Or
worry.
number
This
two.
is
Number two is conserve your cash for your next property. So one of the biggest challenges I've found for if you're of the mindset that you want to own more than one property, maybe you want to own 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The biggest challenge is going to be you're going to run out of money for down payments. So typically, you can buy as a first time home buyer, you can buy your first residence with 3% down. You can get an FHA property with multifamily with 3.5% down. There are some down payment assistance programs out there. So sometimes I see folks and they say, well, I have $100,000. I'm going to do 20% down on my primary residence. And then next year I want to buy an investment property. And a lot of times I'll kind of coach them a little bit and I'll say, well, if you put all that money into your primary residence, then it's going to be harder to come up with the down payment money. One of the reasons I have investment partner is when I read this book, I got into real estate. I wanted to become a real estate investor, and I didn't have a lot of money when I was in my 20s. And so I needed 25% down for my first investment property. It was not easy to scrape together that money. Luckily, I didn't have a wife and kids, so it's a little easier to save money when it's just you. And so actually, I went to my mom, and my mom's a wonderful person. I trust her. She's a good business partner. She's one of the
wonderful
people.
lady. Mrs.
She's
Skelly,
one of
you
the
are
people that
wonderful.
kind of got me excited about real estate. She had owned several homes as when I was growing up, but never an investment property. She had always kind of talked about it being a good idea to buy an investment property. So I went to her. I said, well, why don't I put up half the money? You put up half the money, and we'll do this together. And that has worked out really well for a number of reasons. But that's tip number 3 is consider a business partner. If you don't
Okay.
have 50% down, maybe find somebody to go in on it with.
All right, I agree with number 2. Conserve your cash. Cash is oxygen. Like, the more cash you have, the more runway, easier it is to breathe. Number 3, consider a business partner. I'd be very wary of business partners. We can
I should
walk
say
through
carefully. That. Consider a business partner carefully. You got to
very
really trust
carefully.
them.
If I had to pick one, agree or disagree, I'll just disagree because I think most people shouldn't have a business partner. Brian, your business partner was blood. And so that's worked out. If you're going to consider a business partner, operating agreement is a must. Final decision maker. outlined in the operating agreement is a must. Exit plan in that agreement is a must. Doing it with a friend or, a girlfriend or whatever, not a good idea. Recipe for disaster down the road. So I would ultimately not consider it. Keep it all yours. And if you build up a huge amount of real estate young, bring a prenup to every first date. All right, Brian, what else you got?
I would agree with all those points. Consider it carefully. Not for everybody, and there are pros and cons to it. All right. Next, number 4, learn about the 3 types of real estate investors. This is, in my experience, you have property flippers, you have the vacation rental folks, which is also the whole Airbnb scene, and then you have long-term rentals. Personally, I'm a long-term rental guy for several reasons. Um, I think you mitigate some of the risk. Real estate investing can be risky. I mean, you can absolutely lose money. You can lose a lot of money if you're not careful. Uh, Flipping is kind of a high risk, high reward type of scenario. I've seen people lose a lot of money. I remember I went to tour a home once, and the guy that was renovating the property, it was a 2-unit in Brantford, and I was touring the home. He was like an accountant or something, guy like me who had a day job and was kind of investing on the side. He had purchased this foreclosure for like $80,000 in Brantford, and he was like, "Well, this is going to be great. I just bought a 2-unit, good location, for $80,000." And he ended up renovating it, and it just cost way more than he thought. And he was telling me the story. He was into it for, probably spent $350,000 renovating it. So, 80 plus 350 was into it for 430. And I think he had it listed for about that amount. Nobody was buying it. I watched it. It sat there for a long time. So, flipping is risky. I think the folks that do well flipping are maybe people that have contracting experience. Maybe if they have a crew already. I have worked with some clients that own contracting type businesses where they have wholesale skilled labor at their disposal. They can, have a higher profit margin. If you're just going to, in this market, with cost of building supplies today, if you're going to go out and look for a builder, it's going to cut into your margins, and that's going to be riskier. The
Yeah.
vacation rentals, I think, can work for some folks. I think the vacation rental scene, if you're the type of family that really likes to go on vacation somewhere and you want to own a vacation home, but you kind of want to have like a hybrid second home rent, investment property, that can make sense. So like if you're going skiing, 13 weekends of the year, or you love going to the Cape Cod, you're a beach family, or you go to Florida for part of the time. I mean, I've seen people do it and kind of offset the cost of owning a vacation home. But it's far away from your house. If there's an issue at the property, you can't run over there and fix it up, or just take care of it. So and plus you've got tenants that are moving in and out every weekend or every week. You're going to need cleaning people in there regularly. It would be a lot of work to get a cleaning person and run everything. So then you maybe need a property management company that's going to cut into your profit. So that's not for me. I find that the long term rental has a lot of benefits. You can do it close to your home. You can hold it for a long term. If you get a 2-year lease, the tenants are going to be there for a long time, so you don't have to go in and make the property look good as frequently. So learn about the pros and cons and find out what works for you. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I've lost money flipping when I started. I've made a lot of money flipping. To your point, one of two things: you got to be really experienced or have the crew. You got to be really experienced in, what it's going to cost to rehabilitate the property. There's always going to be unknown. Or number two, you just got to freaking get the property so low that you have the room. Vacation rentals, I absolutely hate that. I agree with your point here. Learn about all 3 types of investments. I don't like vacation rentals. Usually when I look at people's numbers in Connecticut here and they had it up as a vacation rental, I'm like, dude, you could have gotten the same money on the long term. Like, You did all this work. If you're somebody that's truly offering an experience and you're self-managing it, vacation rentals, you can find ways to make good money, but it's a job. If you're gonna really do it right, if you're trying to outsource it and automate it, you're just better off doing long-term rental. Long-term rentals really, really smart, and there's tons of advantages. All right.
It sounds like we're pretty much in agreement on
Yeah.
those. So number 5, I kind of touched on this a little bit. Number 5 is invest close to home. I think a lot of folks don't realize um, how well you're going to get tired. So like when I started, I was like, oh, I'm going to own 10 properties. When I got up to like 4, I was like, this is a lot of work, and I'm doing, I'm splitting the work with someone else. So there's 2 of us doing the work, and that was kind of one of the reasons we got rid of one of them was we were kind of had just a lot going on all at once. Like half of them were vacant, one of them we were redoing the kitchen, and it was just like and life gets busy. You got kids and work, and so investing close to home makes a big difference. So if you have to run over to the property and it's 5 minutes from your house versus being 45 minutes from your house, that is going to help you keep going. A lot of folks just say, you know what, real estate investing is not for me. This is too much work. So investing close to home makes it less work. I
The
would say typically when I have a vacant property, I show them myself. I will typically show the property about 20 times before I get a signed lease. And so if I had to drive 60 minutes both ways, and a lot of times people don't show up. I mean, it drives me nuts. Like sometimes I will book an appointment for somebody to show it and nobody will show up. So I've even gotten in the habit of booking like 2 or 3 people at the same time just because the no-show rate is so high. So if it's a lot easier to just keep going without it being too taxing on your time and stressful. So invest close to home. The other reason, as we kind of touched on, is if you're gonna manage the property yourself, which you kind of need to do in the beginning. If you're buying your first investment property and you're doing the 25% minimum down payment, if you hire a professional management company to manage it for you, that's going to kind of kill your profit margins and going to make it more difficult to be profitable. And if you're not profitable, you're going to be out of business. So I think managing your first few properties by yourself is a good tip. There we go. We'll make that number 20. That wasn't on the list, but manage the properties by yourself on the first couple. And in order to
a
do that, it's
hundred.
got to be close to your home.
These are the two that I tell every early investor I've ever worked with. Keep it close to home within 30 to 35, 40 minutes and self-manage it. If you're not willing to do those 2 things, don't do it.
It's going to be work. All right, number 6, understand leverage, risks, and benefits. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but leverage is the concept that when you're using other people's money, when you're taking a loan to buy an investment property, you are going to get a greater rate of return or a greater loss if things go south, is what leverage is. So, for example, if you buy a $500,000 house and you put down $100,000, 20% down, and that house goes up in value over the next few years. Let's say it goes up 10%. So it goes from 500 to 550. You'll say, well, what's your rate of return on your investment? A lot of people that are not experienced with this will say, oh, that's a 10% rate of return. It started at 500. It went to 550. Well, no, because you invested 100,000 and you got a $50,000 rate of return. That's actually a 50% rate of return. I mean, I'm simplifying a little bit, but that's the concept of leverage, is that because you use the loan to buy a more expensive asset, you used your $100,000 to acquire a $500,000 asset. When it goes up in value, your leverage, but the same is also true if it goes down in value, you can lose a lot more money.